What's up guys, Ivan Carranza here, and today I want to talk about the use of backing tracks in live music. Now, funny enough, I've been thinking about this topic since November 2024 when I went to a couple of shows just before going to visit my family in Peru. And now in January, Johnny Dibble and also my friend Eric Arco released a video about, basses being replaced by backing tracks and also bass plugins and so on. So I'm gonna put their videos also in the description below, but I wanna give you my take on the use of backing tracks in general, what I've experienced, what I've noticed as somebody who performs in a band that also uses backing tracks. And just to start and give you, something from the very beginning, I think using backing tracks in live music is fine as long as they support the performance, not replace it or are the most predominant part of the performance. And like I said, this is coming from somebody who plays in a band that uses backing track live, and I also have a couple of examples of that. But first, let me tell you about why I started thinking about this topic. And like I said, I went to a couple of shows. The opening band of one of them, it was a 4-piece band, and the amount of layers and backing tracks that they were using was really, really too much in my opinion, because first of all, they also didn't have a bass player on stage. There were a million synth layers and pads and keyboards. But what really, let's say, triggered me a little bit was that there were some parts of their set where you could hear an acoustic guitar playing, right? And they had a guitar player on stage, but he was not even playing those parts. And it was not like he was busy playing something else. He just, hands up in the air and just the guitar coming from the backing track all the time. And that's when I'm thinking, okay, you could play those parts with your electric guitar with a clean sound. It might not sound like 100% one-to-one like the record. You could get close to it if you had a guitar with a piezo pickup, for example. But just letting the backing track do the job and you standing there not doing anything, I don't know, that really got to me a little bit. Especially, like I mentioned, since they were already using a lot of backing tracks already and no bass player, then those guitar parts where somebody was just not playing who could have played those parts on stage. On top of having also a lot of electronic drums also where the drummer was not doing anything and everything was coming from backing tracks. And to me, that's not real live performance anymore. That's my personal opinion, but that's more like, more like a show. And it's kind of like listening to a DVD or a recording rather than a real live performance. Like I mentioned, I am all for using backing tracks as long as they support or enhance the live performance and not replace it, or that they are the most dominant portion of what's being played. And I have 4 examples here of what the band that I play for currently, Dr. Crapula, uses live. And it's a 5-piece band, so drums, me on bass, guitar, keyboards, and vocals. On top of that, 4 of the members, so everyone other than myself, also sing backing vocals or, lead vocals as well. And our keyboard player plays a synthesizer, keyboard, and also plays live samples as well. So if there's some electronic things going, most of the time he is triggering them live on stage. Our drummer we are all in in-ear monitors, and our drummer has a click. We all play to him, but we all hear the backing track as well, not the click. And what we use is is there to support what is being played by the other members live. For example, there's quite a bit of percussion like this. And that goes underneath the drum beats just to enhance and give the music some more drive. There is also, for example, this in the chorus of another song. So here's a little more stuff going on. There's the percussion going, there's vocals as well, there's a guitar line, but all of those things are also being played live. And what's mixed underneath is there just to give it some more push to make it wider, make it bigger, but it's not, replacing anything there. Now we have also some other examples. So some accordion, some electronic drums, and also a little bit of vocals that are just there to go underneath what's being played, like I said, to support, to enhance the performance, the live playing. And another example here. Now you could hear there the accordion as well, and also some keys, but those keys are also being played live on stage. The accordion does come from the backing track, but all is there to, enhance, support the performance and not replace or fake something. There are songs where there's a horn section, for example, because the band back in the day was like a 10-piece band, and now we're 5. So I fully understand some reasons to use tracks, to use some instruments that are not part of the band, like officially part of the band. I know it's like costs, travel, hotels, payment, all of that, it gets expensive when you're on the road and you have to put on a live show. So bringing a lot more people for only certain songs, I fully understand that it gets expensive. You could argue, well, if you're going to feature some instruments, you could arrange the songs to feature them all the time, for example, which, in some other styles of music could work. But again, it is a cost decision, I believe. But even there, in my opinion at least, you should use things, or your band at least should have the instruments on stage that are the most important instruments, and then use the tracks to supplement the performance and not to just filling spaces because nobody wants to, let's say, do the job. I know I'm repeating myself there, but that's my opinion. And I think probably the most, the instrument that gets replaced the most are keyboards, for example, like pads, synthesizers, piano sounds, and so on, in many genres of music. And you could say, oh, well, why do keyboard players get replaced? Why is it okay for that and not okay for basses or guitar players and so on? I believe if you rely heavily on the use of keyboards, you should have a keyboard player on stage, unless one person cannot play everything. In that case, even with a keyboard player, I would say, go and add the layers that can't be played live on a backing track if you want to have that effect. Because again, it's something that is probably a very conscious decision that a band or a band leader or a musical director has to make, in that he or she has to decide, okay, is this like 100% a live performance? So all the musicians on stage are playing 100% everything that you're hearing, which is fine. You hear that in a lot of styles of music, like salsa, jazz, R&B, blues, whatever. Or should it be a live performance with some enhancements of the backing tracks to make the performance sound fuller, sound wider? Or should it be like the live performance, should it be like a recreation of the album, right? In that case, of course, then you're gonna need more tracks. But again, I've seen bands that do that approach and still sound like a real live band. And every time I've heard bands that rely heavily on backing tracks in sense of, replacing instruments and using a lot of electronic stuff, the sound always is kind of flat. It lacks the punch of a live instrument being played. And I've noticed this the most with synth bass sounds, for example. They just lack the punch of an electric bass, for example. Even though you can go like super low with the frequencies, they just don't have this visceral feel when you're on stage on a loud PA. They just don't feel the same to me. The same with acoustic drums versus electronic drums. When people play on a sample pad, like a Roland SPD-SX, for example, those drums don't kick the same way, no pun intended, than a real acoustic drum kit. And I remember one time when I was, probably 15, 16 or something in Peru, when I was living in South America still, I went to a hip hop festival, like a one-day festival. And there were two opening bands that were playing before Cypress Hill, one of them being Calle 13. Now the frontman of that band plays with his solo project Residente, and also Tego Calderon, which is a Puerto Rican reggaeton rap artist. And those two bands or artists had a live band with them, and the sound was amazing. Probably one of the most punchiest sounds I've heard in a live performance in that kind of music. Whereas Cypress Hill were just the two guys and a DJ, of course, playing two tracks. And the sound was so flat, like it didn't have any vibe to it. It was just like putting on play on Spotify, for example. It lacked all the imperfections and also the frequencies that make a live performance sound the way it sounds, because you cannot polish it too much. Of course, you can do a lot of EQing on a console and so on, but still, it sounds different than a record. And there's when I first noticed, okay, something sounds off here, because even though they're headlining, the other two bands, which had a live band, sounded so much better. And this is not to criticize Cypress Hill. I really like the music, but I've seen that effect happening more and more often, or some solo artists relying heavily on tracks, and that's kind of like singing karaoke. So I'm curious to hear your thoughts about the use of backing tracks. I know this is very genre dependent, and also it varies depending on the size and type of production, type of show that people perform, but I would like to know your thoughts, so please let me know down in the comments. And like I said, I'm all for the use of backing tracks as long as they support a performance and not replace it or are the main part of a live show or live performance. So as always, thank you guys for watching. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and also don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell to stay up to date with the content that's coming to the channel. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you guys on the next one. Take care.